Welcome back. One Bills Live from One Bills Drive. John Murphy, Steve Tasker, and a special guest, the general manager of the Buffalo Bills, Brandon Beane, joins us after a busy weekend. You had a lot going on since the game ended Thursday night, didn't you? And it looked like you got it all done.
Yeah, we got there. It was a long weekend for a lot of different reasons. Working through our roster, what we were going to pare down to 53. And those are hard discussions because you're talking about each guy and how they fit, not only as a position player, but how do they fit on special teams. If it's generally those guys that are down to the wire, you're talking about backup players. And sometimes you've got to lean towards a guy who plays 3 phases on special teams. Maybe he's not quite as good at a line of scrimmage player, but you can't have your cake and eat it too sometimes. So there's some guys we lost, John, that we had to let go that maybe are out there right now, but how long will they be out there?
6 of your releases wound up on your practice squad, and I'm sure you do the research trying to guess that, but is that what you figured, these 6 guys we might wind up getting them back on our practice squad?
You have your wish list and you hope, but rarely do you get them all. But the way I would say it is we were happy to get the ones we got back, and the ones that we lost, we'll continue to track those guys, because sometimes guys get claimed and maybe after 2 or 3 weeks they're not a fit there, and maybe we have an opportunity back here.
Yeah, and the simple fact of the matter is you did it this weekend, but it keeps going. I mean, it never stops. There's going to be at least a handful of roster changes throughout the season because of injury, or just because a guy unexpectedly becomes available that you've always wanted, kind of thing. And so it's this is just step 1 of a long process, correct?
It is. So, Steve,
maybe it's step 67 of a long process.
Yeah, exactly. Way back in even January signing guys. But we're always looking to, find upgrades, bring competition. And sometimes competition is on practice squad. Maybe it's a guy that we have on practice squad that has played regular season snaps, and we get him in here, and we have that. We have some guys on practice squad that have. And if the guy that's up is not getting it done, that's ideally where we'd like to go when possible. Now, sometimes the guy on practice squad's not ready, and we will go, on the outside.
3 of your cuts were claimed by other teams, and I think the Bills were one of just 9 NFL teams that had multiple players claimed by other teams. Ray McLeod, obviously, and LeSean McCoy, obviously, and Deion Lacey. But says something about where your roster was, right? That other teams value the guys that you have to release.
Yeah, Ryan Lewis went to Indy
Ryan
too.
Lewis,
but
that's right, it's 4.
And we traded a couple guys too.
Yep.
That I feel like if they'd gone through the process. So it does. I thought our depth was definitely in a better spot. With that depth, though, it makes some difficult decisions, and you figure you're going to lose a few. Sometimes you never know. Sometimes there's guys you think, hey, maybe he hasn't shown enough in games, maybe he'll get through, but somebody sees 2 great plays he made and they're going to take a shot. Or sometimes they really love this guy in college, and maybe we didn't use him right and they're going to take a shot.
And the truth of the matter is you have access to all the practice squads anyway, so if there is a guy out there and you've liked him, you can sign him. Now, if you sign a guy off their practice squad, you have to activate him, though, correct?
You have to activate him, and you have to keep him up for 3 weeks.
Right.
Just to keep teams from pulling a guy for a week. If you do it off your own practice squad, you don't have to do it for 3 weeks. But if you do it off another team's, just to keep teams from jockeying.
From poaching.
Yeah. With General Manager Brandon Beane, the newsworthy item obviously came Sunday morning when you released LeSean McCoy, who got picked up at Kansas City. Can you just talk about that decision and how things changed for you in your thinking during the course of preseason, I guess, about the running back group?
Yeah, that was a very difficult decision. And I know that was the big name that we got asked about in the spring. And LeSean handled everything, the competition. He knew there was competition, and sometimes you don't have a crystal ball to know what's going to play out in free agency, what's going to play out in the draft. But we just felt that the guys that we kept could handle the load, and that this was the time to make the move. And again, a lot of reasons. We wish LeSean the best. There's nothing he did to say this is why we got to do it. It's just, it truly was a competition, and we just decided at the end of the day, and sometimes it's difficult, and listen, time will tell if we made the right decision, but we wish LeSean the best. I'm glad he landed with a familiar coach and GM, and I think he'll do well there.
Well, obviously, you kept Frank Gore, you kept Devin Singletary, T.J. Yeldon. Which of those 3 guys, if any of them, maybe were the biggest part of the difference between LeSean being here and not being here? Who played, outstandingly? That you're like, wow, okay, now we feel good about this guy. Which one of those guys was the biggest surprise, I guess is the question.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest unknown was probably Devin, just because, and again, he's still an unknown. He hasn't played a regular season game. But, there were things that I talked about in the conference call with the media the other day of, Devin was basically just used as a runner when he was at Florida Atlantic. He was very, rarely used in the passing game. And so that was one of the things we had to figure out was what are his hands, what's his feel for the pass game, what's his, there's an instinctive feel you either got or you don't. And then pass pro itself, understanding where the free man's coming, and then technique. And I talked about it the other day. I thought Devin early in camp probably struggled a little bit, but really, figured it out. Now, listen, he's not going to be perfect, but we feel comfortable that he can be there on any of the 3 downs. T.J. Yeldon has been a 3-down player in Jacksonville, more reserve, but has started games. And then Frank Gore, you guys know his history. He's a downhill, one cut. He's 36, but he's still got it.
Right.
You indicated the other day you expect kind of a running back by committee setup for the Bills. Who's the chairman of that committee? Or do you think that'll change on a week-to-week basis, game plan-wise? Like who gets the most carries this week, next week?
I mean, I think that'll be up to Brian. And game plans happen where some weeks we may want to use the backs in more of a pass. The game's called for more passing situations, or that's where we feel we can gain an advantage on the defense we're playing. Some weeks, you want to be able to do what not what they're forcing you to do, but what you do best. And some weeks it may be best for us to pound it 30 times, and some weeks we may only run it 14 or 15 and really be throwing it a lot. So that'll be at Brian's discretion. Frank right now is really done a great job and is a grizzled vet, so to speak. I assume he'll probably roll out there first, but we'll see what Brian has in store this weekend.
You kept 10 offensive linemen?
Yeah, we
It
did.
Seems like a big number.
It is. It's you really can't go any more than that probably, but O-line depth is so important. And, injuries can happen there. We saw that in the preseason with the injuries we had there. And, again, you have your position minimums, but we tried to keep the best 53. We didn't truly say we're going to keep, 9 linemen, 10 linemen, whatever, or X number of tight ends. We just we kind of rolled with what the minimums are, and we felt these 10 at this time deserved it. Now, listen, if we have an injury somewhere or something else, generally where your heavy is where you got to start pulling from. So I don't know how long we'll be able to go with 10.
Tight end group, Tyler Croft's availability, I guess, not going on PUP had to change the equation there a little bit, right? And when did you get word that you probably want to carry him on the 53 and not put him on PUP?
Yeah, he got a scan somewhere like around the Carolina game.
Okay.
That said he could start progressing, but that still wasn't the final word. They then started ramping him up, and we wanted to see where he was and make sure no setbacks to that point. And to this point, he's had no setbacks. Now he's not there; he's still working, but we felt comfortable that he would be ready as long as he didn't have a setback. Well ahead of the 6-week windows, so we just decided to make that move. It does cost us a roster spot now, instead of doing that, but that's the risk we want to take.
Behind him, that's an interesting group, a blocking specialist and a couple of rookies. That'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, it will. Lee is such what a veteran he is, and what a presence for a guy who's only been here since the spring. He has a voice in this, not only in the offense but on this team, and he learned from Kyle Williams. I know that's a guy he talks about even when we brought him in for an interview, who he kind of learned how to be a pro from and what it took. And, to have him out there, right now with these 2 rookies until Tyler gets out there gives us some comfort that he's going to help them through and kind of coach them even how to watch film, just in what to expect. They've played in preseason games, but we all know it's going to escalate to another level when you get into regular season play. So hopefully if their nerves are a little, up there, hopefully he'll be able to calm them down.
You also have, Darryl Johnson, the defensive end, the 7th round draft pick, Tommy Sweeney. You've got some guys. This draft cast, it looks like all of them except one are going to be on this team and contributing, and of course the 2 rookie tight ends in a big way.
Yeah, we're happy with where those guys. Darryl did a nice job this preseason, and not only did he do a good job, on defense, but he really made some plays on special teams. He may be on 2 or 3 phases for Heath, which is important that you get, as many guys. If you're not starting, we need as many guys as we can on teams. And then, Tommy did a great job. I mean, with the injuries to Dawson and Jason Kroom and Tyler Croft, he worked his way up there where he was starting, some of the preseason games, and it didn't seem too big for him. He's a steady Eddie type player.
Your roster, is it a young roster? Somebody asked me that question the other day, and I thought, I don't know. I see the rookies. I see, all but one of your draft picks on the 53, but there are also some veteran leadership there. It's an interesting roster makeup, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would call it a blended roster.
Yeah.
You need to have more youth than not, but we try to have leaders in as many rooms as we can, and you need the Lorenzo Alexanders and the Micah Hydes, and we lost a big one in Kyle Williams last year, and I talked about Lee Smith a minute ago, and John Feliciano. Mitch Morse hadn't been in there much, but he's got leadership to him. You can't lead if you're not on the field, so I think as he gets back in the flow, that will help. But Frank Gore, he's a very good leader, and Pat DeMarco is another one. John Brown's come in, and Cole Beasley. Those 2 guys have brought some veteran savvy to our wide receiver room. So we really tried to, get leaders everywhere. Jerry Hughes has stepped up too. I think just us showing faith in him and paying him gave him the confidence with Kyle and being gone to step up in that room. So we've tried to get leaders, in every position group if we can, but you still need a lot of youth, that energy. You can get old fast in this league if you don't.
Just a couple minutes left with Bills GM Brandon Beane. I had this conversation during the game last Thursday with my broadcast partner Eric Wood about your philosophy of practice squad. I believe, is more who's ready to help us now. You want to invest in development, but you're really looking for an extra, in your case, 11 guys, 10 guys who can jump in and help this year if they have to, right?
Yeah, we are. We're trying to develop. It's that minor league, for the baseball term. That's our AAA. We'd love to have more, but we want to develop those guys. I think you saw it last year. I don't have the number in front of me, but we brought most of those guys up to play some regular season action, some more than. I mean, Levi Wallace started on that last year. And then started the last 7 games. So we don't want it to be just guys reading cards, running around. We want to develop guys and get them ready. And so we think we do have some guys that maybe aren't ready today, but maybe by, October, November, they'll be ready should an injury occur.
I've been thinking about this, too, the last couple of weeks. Do you have a philosophy on third quarterback? Do you want the guy on the 53? Do you want him on a practice squad? Do you want him a phone call away if you need him? What do you think teams, and your team especially, should do with a third quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to – quarterback is the ultimate position of any sport. So my philosophy is if we have 3 that if the number 2 guy and the number 3 are both – what I call quality backups that can go in the game if Josh Allen goes down, then I think we would roll with 3. We did that some last year, but we just didn't feel that Tyree was ready for that, and he'll land on his feet somewhere, and his career is just starting. I mentioned him the other day, but we brought in Davis Webb, and Davis has been in the league a little bit, been around. We'll probably be able to get acclimated a little quicker. Again, should an injury occur, then we'll have to decide, is Davis ready to come up and be Matt's backup, or do we need to go get a veteran from the outside? Ideally, if you don't carry 3, you've got that 3rd guy on your practice squad ready to bring up, should an injury occur.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the vibe in the building now. It's week 1. After all of this has been done, you've got, you're off it. This was highly anticipated for a couple of years now, getting to this point. Now you're this week 1 of Sean's 3rd year, your 2nd full year. You've had 2 drafts. The anticipation's got to be just almost crazy inside the building because you've planned and prepared and had such good results so far with what you've done. The vibe in the building's got to be just electric.
Yeah, I think the guys, we got a good group of guys. We really do. We got guys, it's workmanlike. I mean, we've done nothing. The preseason, I know they're talking about the 4-0 thing and all that, but our guys understand that doesn't mean anything. And that yesterday, Sean had a practice and was out there and the guys really worked hard. It's just another day, and they're focused on the Jets. It's nice to be game planning for opponent, running the scout team. You saw some of the guys learning how to run scout team that haven't done it. That's one of the things I think Sean pulled a couple guys aside. Hey, this is the offensive period. Let them have that one. Let the quarterback throw it, even if it would have been a sack or something like that, so that they can execute the play.
Before I let you go, can we get your scouts appraisal of the opponents, the New York Jets this week? What do you think of that team?
Yeah, they're very good. I mean, we know Adam Gase very well, and he's an offensive mind. I know Peyton Manning raved about him, and he did some really good things. It didn't work out in Miami, but he's a very good play caller, and I know Leslie and Sean will have their hands full with that. Sam Darnold is a guy we spent a lot of time with in the pre-draft process. We know Sam, what a competitor. He is really good. He's fine when he's set in the pocket, but when he moves around, I think he is just, for a guy that makes a lot of off-schedule plays, he may be even more accurate when his feet aren't set. I mean, he's just I went and watched all his plays again this morning, and he made some of his best throws rolling this way, throwing back against the bodies. I watched all his preseason throws for this year, just to go back and see how they're using him right now. I mean, I'm sure they didn't unveil everything, but they brought in Jamison Crowder, who was a guy that we looked at, when we signed Cole Beasley. He'll work over the middle. They got Quincy Enunwa there, and then obviously Le'Veon Bell is a bell cow, and that guy is an all-pro elite player. We'll have to know where he's at all times, because they'll split him out. They've got some packages. They brought Ty Montgomery in out of Stanford. I worked out Ty privately some years ago before he was drafted in Green Bay. Great young man, and kind of that tweener, can run the ball, but they'll have some packages where both those guys are in there, and they may split them both out and throw it to one of them. They may have one split out and hand it to the other one. They've got a lot of weapons on offense that our defense will have to be ready for. And then Greg Williams on the defensive side, he's going to bring some heat. He generally likes to bring pressure. And they got those two guys up the middle, Leonard Williams and the Williams brothers, and Quentin Williams. So, and they signed C.J. Mosley. What a great player he is, and Jamal Adams. I think you guys spent some time with Jamal, but I worked out Jamal and Tre'Davious when I was in Carolina, and took him out to lunch, and he's a great young man, and he's been fun to watch. I wish he wasn't in our division. I wish he was in the NFC, but those guys are that team. You talk about being strong up the middle. They're very strong up the middle on that defensive side of the ball.
You sound like a scout. You sound like you've done some work on this team.
Well, some of it is just scouting these guys in college and watching them. But you go back and I flipped through both sides of their ball the last couple of days. Now that we got our roster set, we got our hands. We got our work cut out for us this week.
It's gonna be fun. Like always, though, you go back and you'll watch what Greg Williams has done in season and openers when he was with Cleveland. He's had 9 stops. In his NFL career, so he's been in a lot of places on these opening days as defensive coordinator. So you go back and look at all of those. Same thing with Adam Gase. You know what he's bringing to the table. So there's not unfamiliar territory with these coaches and what they're going to do, but still, you never seen them with these players, right?
Yeah, it's a different personnel. So they may have had a stronger, Greg Williams' case, maybe had a stronger front, but maybe not the back end or vice versa. So you still you're trying to figure out how he's going to use these pieces, and Adam Gase the same way. I mean, I'm not sure he had this many weapons. He's got a lot of weapons at his disposal right now, and he's going to try to create mismatches. He's going to try and get, Le'Veon Bell on somebody that can't handle him, or Jamison Crowder, Jamison is very good with the ball in his hands, a big rack player that we'll have to make sure he's going to make his catches. We'll have to get him down immediately, or he can be a big explosive player for him.
Can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Thanks, Brandon.
You got it.
Brandon Beane, the Bills general manager, joining us. Steve and I coming back. One Bills Live from One Bills Drive, and this is Buffalo Bills Radio.